1. Welcome to Made for More Living.
One small step for man.
With Johnny Jennings.
Kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy.
The fastest and most exciting hour of news, events, and real estate in Northern California.
And this is a fact that was proved.
Online at madeformorerealty.com.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Get ready. Here we go.
On the show today, we are going to be talking about solar. And so we have our resident expert, solar professional extraordinaire, Shawn. You know him as Graybeard. Thank you for being on the show today.
It's absolutely my pleasure, Johnny, to be on the show. Thank you for having me once again. There's the solar coaster is an e-ticket ride, and it never fails to deliver. It's delivering for us now. So thank you for the opportunity to share some updates.
Yeah, happy to do it. And you were telling me that there's a lot of things that are changing with this, potentially with the passage of this big, beautiful bill. And you mind going into exactly what that entails as far as solar is concerned?
Well, the short answer relative to solar is the big, beautiful bill is trying to pretty much gut the solar benefits that we've had for almost 40 years. So
why would they do that? What's the benefit? Like, why chase that?
So effectively, it's cost. I mean, it's money, because the solar industry has been subsidized ever since it began. So anytime you launch a new industry that was not, mature, or it's not even in its adolescence, especially with green energy and solar panels, the government provided some incentives, the biggest of which is the tax credit that you get. A tax credit is a dollar for dollar offset of taxes owed, but being subsidized by the federal government means it's an expense to them. They're helping people pay for solar. And currently the way that it exists is homeowners that want to move forward, that want to own a system, and whether you finance or want to own it, write a check for it, you enjoy a 30% federal solar income tax credit. So basically 30% of whatever the cost of the solar system is, let's say, just for sake of math, it's an easy number. Let's say it's 50 grand with batteries and solar panels and ground mount and all that. 30% of that is 15 grand. So you write a check for 50, Uncle Sam contributes 15 grand in tax mitigation, either in the form of refund or lessening the tax that you owe. And so net cost you is $35,000. So the short answer to your question is this is low hanging fruit money when they're trying to pass one of the biggest legislative bills that we've ever seen. And the objections thus far from holdout Republicans have been relative to the cost of the bill. Saving solar isn't going to decrease the cost of the bill. So this is not somehow, some way, solar is going to get advantaged in these negotiations as they come to the tail end here. It's just an easy, low-hanging fruit to say, after 40 years, shouldn't the industry stand on its own? I mean, if I was a devil's advocate or arguing for this, I would say it's a mature industry now. It's not an adolescent. It's not a newborn industry. It's mature. Why do we need to continue to subsidize it? So that's kind of the logic behind the scenes.
I understand, I guess, now the logic, but when you're increasing the federal deficit by $5 trillion, it's like, it seems a little insignificant to be picking on solar. Like, no. you're tripping over dollars to pick up pennies at this point.
Yeah. And I don't think it's we're gonna go after solar. I don't think that's the theme here, but I do think that as a byproduct of, wide sweeping, massive formulative change to, all of the tax code and everything. I just think that this is one of those industries that's going to take it on the chin more so than a few others. And the challenge for homeowners is, like, for example, many of your audience are going to be in PG&E territory. PG&E isn't going to stop raising rates. PG&E isn't going to get less expensive. So, the reality of it, of the situation is, from a homeowner perspective, which is what I want to make sure that they're understanding. If you ever wanted to look at solar, right now would be the time, because to forfeit that 30% federal income tax credit, and we don't know how this is going to shake out as of when you and I are recording this. We don't have a final product yet. We don't have a Senate passed and House reconciled version of it. But again, any objections that I've seen relative to this are not on the back of solar. It's gonna, I think this is gonna pass, and I think it's going to to represent the biggest disadvantage that we've ever seen to the solar industry in the loss of that federal income tax credit. And then additionally, Johnny, get this, so that there's several different ways that federal income tax credit can be taken. As a homeowner, if you own the system, you enjoy the benefit of that tax credit. But investors in the investment world have been the primary money funding, for example, for leases and what we've done a lot of in the last year or two, which is power purchase programs. Those investors pool their money together since they own the system, they get the benefit of the 30% tax credit. We're understanding that credit is right now going to go away as of December 31st. So effectively, what I'm saying is I don't think we'll see leases or power purchase programs, which were the biggest programs if a homeowner didn't want to spend any of money themselves, no money out of pocket. So I think those programs are going to go away.
So what is this going to mean, though, for the solar industry as a whole? Like, is it just going to be consolidation of power? Are people not going to be able to get solar in certain states? What's that going to look like?
That's an excellent question, and obviously we'll see soon what it's going to mean. But here's a couple different things that I would key in on. I'm gonna talk a little bit about solar in the rest of the country, and then I'll talk about solar in California. So the loss of the tax credit and what's looking at right now, the last iteration, again, this could get axed in negotiations. We don't know. But the last iteration of it that we saw is that the 30% federal income tax credit will end as of December 31st of 2025. Next year in 2026, it's going to be 18% versus 30. And then in 2027, it'd be 6% instead of 30 and then gone thereafter. So, with that 2-year stage down, 30 to 18 to 6 and then gone, what you'll see throughout the rest of the country is solar will almost become financially, untenable in probably 30 states that it exists today. Because California leads the nation in energy expense for electricity. But in many other states,
we're winning. We're winners.
Exactly.
I don't know if I want to be winning in that category, but we're winning.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
Well, but let's say that you're talking about Illinois or Iowa, and the rates there are 1/5 the cost of PG&E rates in California. To now take the cost of solar and effectively increase it by 30% is going to mean that it takes much longer for those homeowners in those states to ever get their money back out of the investment in solar. So we're projecting that, upwards of probably 30 different states where solar has a decent market, that market will be significantly impacted with the loss of that tax credit. And so I just think it would be unrealistic for anybody to ever buy solar in those states thinking it's going to save them money. Now, set that aside. Now look at California. Whether we have the 30% federal income tax credit benefit or not, back to my original point, with California leading the nation in terms of electricity expense, PG&E never is going to, they're not going to get cheaper. They're a for-profit publicly traded company. They're never going to go to their board of directors and say, hey, I think we should reduce our rates to benefit homeowners. That's just not going to happen. And so solar will exist in California for several reasons. Number one, the high electricity cost of energy here in the state. And then number two, the other issue is California mandates that all new construction, residential apartments and houses have to have solar. So you're going to have companies that exist to meet the building code demand, and then probably to address commercial interest, and then whatever homeowner interest would remain would be left for them to grab. So to answer your original question, my fear is that you'll see probably anywhere from a 60 to 70% reduction in the amount of companies that are currently doing solar in California, probably by the end of 2026. There'll be a massive consolidation of the industry. And I think the companies that are actually going to be positioned the best to survive this are companies that do a decent chunk of their business in commercial solar, because corporations can depreciate the solar asset. They can get the tax benefits elsewhere and in other ways. And by the way, the big beautiful bill for corporations would make solar even more expensed than it currently is. So I don't think commercial business is going to go away. New construction business isn't going to go away. California isn't going to stop building houses, and they're not going to stop mandating that all new houses have to have solar. And then you now got residential retrofit installers. So those are installers that focus on putting solar on your house or my house. If a local solar company only does that, only does retrofit business, I would be very concerned about their viability through the year 2026 and beyond, because I think we're going to see a significant reduction in homeowner interest, at least the first half of next year, if not the first 9 months. And many of those companies can't go 6 or 9 months with a 50, 60, 70, 80% reduction in their business.
Yeah.
Survive that.
Nope. What is there any talk of California coming out with like state level incentives to bridge
No,
the gap?
I think all of that went away when they had the no pun intended here, but they had the trump card of really kind of mandating that all new construction has to have solar. So when they mandate that any new house has to have solar, that's the last year that we saw any type of credit available or incentive available from the state of California to continue to foster the industry. So this is the most viable state in the country for solar. It is the most solar adopted, not because there was some sort of state incentive. It's just a function of the outrageous expense of how much energy costs today in California.
So in a state where energy would be more affordable, what would normally take 25, 30 years to break even with that tax incentive is now going to take 30, 40, 50 years. Whereas California, they keep jacking the prices up on us. So you're still money ahead in the long run.
Yeah. So let's factor in the tax credit. So let's just say right now today, let's say somebody wrote a check for solar and batteries or whatever. They just bought the system. Most folks will see a complete 100% recovery of their investment in terms of what they saved against paying PG&E or others, usually within 7 to 9 years.
Wow.
So let's just say 8 years. So right now in California, with that 30% federal income tax credit, let's say an 8-year break-even point. In other words, I got all my money back and what I saved, and then now I start to make money on my money because, I'm not paying PG&E as much or anything or whatever. Mm-hmm. So if that 30% tax credit goes away, that's going to elongate that payback by probably 2.5, 3 years. Let's just say 3 years to be an example. So let's say 11 years versus 8 now, but in other states that might be 30 or 35 years. Yikes. So, the point that I wanted to make here is, big companies, multi-state companies, for example, the biggest that most people would be aware of is Sunrun. Anytime you walk into Costco or Home Depot, those are Sunrun folks trying to sell you solar. Yep. A big company like that, how do they unwind out of 30 other states that they're in right now quickly without losing their financial, taking a big financial hit, unwinding leases, unwinding crews and trucks and inventory and stuff like that? Because I just think it's unrealistic to expect you're going to see a lot of business from a whole bunch of other states. I think California and Florida are going to be the two biggest states that continue to be solar adopted, but many of those other states are going to not see an advantage to it.
So to kind of put a bow on this, it looks like with the big, beautiful bill, solar is going to be less viable in 30 other states, and you're probably going to see fewer financing options for solar. So less leases, less power purchase. It's going to be primarily like owners buying them.
Yes.
For at least for people that I deal with, they know that the listeners, if you own a home,
yes,
those other options are going away, and that power is going to be consolidated into a handful of companies.
Yeah, I think, consulting my crystal ball,
has some cracks in it.
Yeah, it's got some cracks in it. It's known to have been wrong a few times, but I think that's a good summarization, of really what's coming. But what's interesting is, the solar industry's got more lives than a cat. So the reality of it is the industry will figure out some way to pivot. They will figure out some way to still exist and be viable. I certainly am not going to go anywhere in this process. We are forecasting, a significant business reduction, but I think that my confidence in how quickly PG&E is going to continue to raise rates is really something that I think I'll take heart in, because the reality of it is that as time goes on, whether you have a tax credit or not, it's just so dang expensive, to have electricity. I was just talking to somebody the other day. They had a $1,700 monthly bill average for
Yikes.
a 4,000 square foot house in the foothills.
Yep.
It's solar is going to be the only option that helps with that, right?
Absolutely. And so if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way?
Yeah. So if somebody wants to connect, all they got to do is text to our short code. We've got a short kind of phone number, 84503. If somebody wants to reach out and explore solar right now, if they text solar SOLAR to 84503, that's the easiest way for us to connect with them and get back in touch. But Johnny, I did want to share one thing about kind of what to look for. So if anybody right now is kind of gauging this, kind of the urgency of the message, right? So if you're going to go solar, now would be the time to do it. But I would be very mindful of, which companies you decide to potentially work with, because to me, the horror story would be somebody gets solar urgently now, signs up, gets an installation contract, only to then have that company that they dealt with, in the first 4 months of 2026 announce that they're going out of business. There's been enough of that in solar for decades, where companies have come and gone that people are already skittish. And so here's what I would, as a solar broker, here's what we're doing. We're also kind of consolidating our own focus, because I took a look at our 11 different installers that we work with now, and I wanted to better understand which one of these installers is going to be viable, or the most viable, as time goes on, because I think I've got some risk that way too in our current mix, because this is, again, something out of left field that nobody last year was planning or anticipating.
Yeah.
And so I would look for companies, specifically ask solar installer companies how much of their business is commercial business. You'd want that to be at least 20 to 25%. I would look at how much new construction business they do. Do they install on new construction homes? Do they have contracts with home builders? That should be at least 15 or 20%. Because if we could make 40 or 45 or 50% of their business stuff that isn't going to be impacted by this tax credit change, then I think that company is still going to have a significant amount of business to be viable in 2026 and beyond. Lastly, the other simpler question to ask is, all of your business residential retrofit? Are you only dealing with installing solar on existing houses? Those companies, I think, are going to be the most jeopardized. Those are the ones I would definitely want to have homeowners take a deeper dive into to understand their viability in 2026 and beyond if this goes through.
Yeah, that's really good insight. And so if somebody wants to reach out to you, just have a conversation about, because you said 11 different installers is who you have?
Yeah, we had 11 different installers, but let me make this particular point here with these installers. I do have one installer that reached out to us that said basically they're one of 30 companies throughout the whole nation that are going to be able to still continue to do, for example, the best option that we've had recently is these power purchase programs. So this particular company bought almost 2 years worth of inventory to take advantage of that tax credit benefit. So effectively, I'm going to have an option whether the PPAs go away or not. And I think this is a great function of being a broker. I'm going to have a company where we can still represent leases and power purchase programs for the next 2 years based on the forward thinking of the financier behind the scenes that bought all this equipment.
Wow.
But not everybody throughout the state is going to have that.
Especially if you're working for like one broker, or if you're not a broker, but if you're working for one company, that's your option.
The small guys are going to get excluded. The mid-sized guys that don't have the backing or the reputation are going to get excluded. So the only companies that are going to have these unique opportunities are proven companies that have had existing relationships with these financiers, and these financiers could be the gold, that allows some holders to some homeowners to still benefit from solar after all of these changes take effect. In the way
love it.
Yeah,
that's so. I mean, that's a ballsy move, but it may end up paying off for these guys. Buying 2 years worth of inventory. Oh my gosh.
Well, we just found out about this yesterday. So we were all like disheartened, thinking that all of the options that we were going to have were were going to go away. But, just to toot my own horn here, again, back to your point, if I was a guy that was limited in my resources and could only work with one company, and that particular company didn't have the reputation or the length in business or the strategic relationships to have that as an option, how I would be limiting my client because of my limited relationship. So I think that's an advantage of being a broker.
Not only that, but then I've also been reading about how I think they're going to, in this big, beautiful bill, they're talking about limiting where the solar panels can be manufactured.
Correct.
And that might impact cost as well. Right?
Oh, that's definitely. Well, not only tariffs and then the manufacturing of the panels. And then you're reading right because, for example, in order for somebody to take advantage, and we're talking about maybe two different things here. Part of that bill talked about large scale solar projects throughout the nation. We're talking about projects that could take 2 or 3 years to get done or completed. So this particular, that provision you're talking about mandated that those projects have to be completed by 2027, and they can't have a certain percentage of the equipment that's installed be concentrated overseas. It's got to be domestic. And so these are what they're calling safe harbor rules for solar. I don't do large scale municipal solar projects. I just help homeowners that are getting killed by PG&E and their expense and, don't want to afford, a second mortgage and electricity costs. That's where I'm focused on working.
Got it. But even with the tariffs and stuff, it sounds like a solar system is going to increase in cost, and you're going to decrease the number of, credits you're able to have over the next 2 years. And so those guys who purchased up all of this inventory are going to be, if they come to you, if they go to, 84503 solar, and 84503 and just text solar, your clients are going to be able to get, your customers are going to be able to get a better deal than probably what most people are offering out there.
Yeah, so I do agree with you, and I think the strong will survive. I think ultimately within this industry, you're going to get a situation where the industry will be consolidated quite a bit, and the people that make it are going to end up thriving even more so than maybe they are now. And I'm anticipating that for us. I'm excited about what's to come because I think this change is going to get rid of a lot of the predatory solar riffraff out there, because the industry doesn't have a great reputation. It's been thought of by most folks as a highly predatory industry. And I think that this will, hopefully change that.
Hey, maybe there's a little bit of silver lining after all. So, well, hey, thanks.
If you're an optimist, there's always a silver lining outside.
You can always find it. Absolutely. Well, hey, thank you so much for being on the show today. One more time, if people want to reach out to you, the best way to do it is 84503. Just text that number.
Yep. And then just text the word solar, SOLAR, to 84503, and then we'll be in touch.
Yep. And if you guys are like, hey, what was that phone number? I don't remember. You can always go to madeformorerealty.com, reach out to us. We're happy to connect you with Shawn and his team. Thanks again, Shawn. We'll have you on soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
If you are anything like Johnny and I, and your schedule is just jam-packed, you have no margin as far as time to do other projects or other activities, listen to this. If you're interested in selling your home, but again, you don't have the time to do those costly needed repairs or open houses or showings, Johnny Jennings will give you at least 3 cash offers on your home in as-is condition. So yeah, you don't have to take the time to do repairs or showings or organizing or staging. Again, just at least 3, 1, 2, 3 cash offers in as-is condition. What do? You just Google Johnny Jennings with Made for More Realty, Johnny Jennings with Made for More Realty, and get more for your home.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings. Online at madeformorerealty.com.
So, Matt, you were giving me a bit of a hard time there on the break.
Well, I mean, we're talking about the big, beautiful bill. The president has worked really hard, and so has Congress and the Senate, trying to get it done by 4th of July. Yeah. And here you are on the radio just bad-mouthing him, saying it's an ugly bill. It's not a big, beautiful bill. It's a big, ugly bill.
Well, here's the thing.
I thought you were patriotic. I
am. Big fan of...
I thought you were a fiscally conservative individual.
Absolutely. That's the thing. You know exactly where I'm going with this. So I think there's a lot of good things in the bill, but I recently saw something that said it's supposed to increase the federal deficit by $5 trillion.
Yeah.
That's right. Why? Why is that a good thing?
Nobody said it was a good thing.
Then why is it happening? Why is the big beautiful bill? What's so beautiful about it?
Would you rather have nothing?
What do you mean?
Well, you got to have something. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. You have to negotiate a bill with a Democrat Party too, who want to spend even more money. So you have to make compromises in order to get things done. It's not a super majority Republican House or Senate. You have Democrats that you have to speak with who are concerned about voters and
I get all that, but it's like $5 trillion. That's that. So here's what's happening. Here's how this is going to impact the real estate market. Good question. The federal fund rate, right? What that does is people are buying American debt. China is buying American debt.
Right.
Entities are buying American debt. Right now, with our credit score having been reduced and with the proposed increase in federal debt, the outlook of the U.S. being a good place to buy debt from has gone down. And so now, even if the federal...
Scott Bessent and Donald Trump are not concerned about it, obviously.
So if the federal fund rate even does drop... So this is already happening. The federal fund rate dropped twice. The Fed dropped rates twice last year, and interest rates went up. One of the reasons why is because countries do not want to buy American debt because we're not seen as a good investment right now. Mm-hmm. So yes, you can increase the federal deficit by an additional $5 trillion, but really what you're doing is you're just making the overall problem worse. These politicians are trying to get reelected. That's what they're always trying to do. That's the number one goal.
Correct. I agree with that.
And the American public is what pays the bills. They're the ones that are left holding the bag. And the bill comes due at some point, whether it's my generation, whether it's my son's generation, the bill's going to come due, and the longer it takes to pay this bill, the heavier it gets. And so let's say the Fed does decide to drop rates at the end of July or in September. That may not include an interest rate drop, because if people aren't willing to buy federal debt, then the Fed has lost power. They're barely hanging on to control, and that can cause inflation. So if the Fed loses control, things get out of hand really quickly. And so by adding on another $5 trillion, that's just insane. Our servicing the debt is greater than our defense bill right now.
Right, correct.
That's just, I don't understand why people cannot come to a compromise and say, hey, let's balance the budget. Warren Buffett said it once, and I think so the founding fathers, they did a lot of things right, but I wish they would have done this one thing, and I hope maybe someday it'll get added in, whether it's an amendment. But what Warren Buffett says is the budget needs to be balanced with no more than a 3% increase year over year, like a 3% deficit year over year, or everybody in Congress is no longer eligible for re-election.
Wow. Yeah. Because
that solves the problem overnight. Because that's the number one. I don't care who you are. Politicians care about getting elected. Trump needs to care. Trump cares about who his politicians are that are going to get reelected, because then that influences his ability to create policy. If he just does whatever he wants and doesn't care about the House or the Republicans in the House or the Republicans in the Senate, then that impedes his ability to get his stuff passed. So by just racking up another $5 trillion, adding another $5 trillion in debt, that is bad. That is bad for middle class families. That's bad for my kids. That's bad for defense. That's bad for people buying houses overall.
Yeah, the argument from President Trump and people like Scott Bessent and other conservative voices say that, this is a long process. We'll eventually get there, but you can't get everything done in one bill. And you do have many Democrats that you have to work with, you have to talk to, you have to negotiate with. I mean, look how hard it was to get this bill done.
But this is also one of the biggest pieces of legislation in history. How about you take some smaller chunks?
Okay, well, yeah, that's an idea, but still, you're still going to have, even in those small chunks, you're still going to have additions to the deficit. It's just the way it is.
So it comes down to like the idea of somebody saying, "Hey, you know what? I'm just going to always live with credit card debt." That's just life.
That's the way our culture is, and I get that. Yeah.
And then there's the individuals who are like, "Hey, no, that is not normal. I'm not gonna."
Yeah, I know you're a big Dave
debt.
Ramsey fan.
Yeah, I'm huge Dave Ramsey fan.
The United States needs to be living off rice and beans.
I just think there's so much waste. There was a recent article that came out. They found $15 billion in payments going out in fraud. 15 with a B.
Yeah.
Like that's just then that's just the tip of the iceberg. And I think if you
They have cut a lot of stuff, though.
but if you were able to eliminate the fraud, increase like the money coming in.
That's only going to do so much. Elon Musk did as much as he could do with Doge. He probably could do some more, but even then, they had this lofty goal of trying to eliminate $2 trillion, and they only ended up getting like half a, like 400 billion.
$100 billion, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you're not going to be able to find all the waste and fraud. That's not going to be the complete solution.
No. I'm not saying find all of it, but I think there's some low hanging fruit here. Like same thing with the deportations taking place. People are like, there's no way you're going to do this, and now there's been like 1 million people that have chosen to go back into their countries voluntarily. There hasn't been 1 million people deported because policy changes. And so I'm saying it doesn't take a whole lot, but everybody has to be willing to make those changes. And now,
the key word is everyone.
So
that's tough to do when you have a lot of folks that work at the Capitol who like all of the programs, and they're not concerned with having a more conservative approach to spending.
And honestly, it's like just anti-Trump. I saw this meme the other day. It's like, hey, I want to see Trump come out against the Second Amendment just to see all the Democrats talk about how they are pro the Second Amendment because he's against it.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of partisan politics going on, but this bill I do not think is going to, if it increases the deficit that much, it's gonna really hurt in the long run. There's no doubt about it. You can't increase it that much. But the good news is,
how does that affect real estate though? Tie that all into real estate.
Because the federal fund rate, people do not want to buy federal debt. They don't want to buy our debt, which is what we're doing, right?
Okay.
But for lower interest rates. So it's impossible for us to really lower those interest rates down to where the typical family can have a 5% interest rate.
President Trump has been pushing the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates. He's saying that needs to lower. He's saying,
but that's my point. The Fed did reduce rates twice last year, and interest rates went up. It's not tied lockstep.
Right.
It's based off what countries and like hedge funds are willing to invest in, and they're saying because of the U.S. debt load, the U.S. is not as good as an investment.
So you think if this bill does get through the House and it finally passes and the president signs it, then it's going to negatively affect the real estate market?
I definitely do. I think it's going to
in the short term
negatively impact the federal fund, the Federal Reserve's rate control over the federal fund rate, and what that impact has on interest rates. I definitely think it's going to impact it. Now, what's short term? 6 months, 12 months? I don't know if it's going to do it that long, but in like 3 to 5, absolutely.
3 to 5 years?
Absolutely. Unless they're able to get a rein in and like this nebulous long strategy plan that the Republicans supposedly have to reduce the deficit, even though they always raise it every single year. Like, show me when they've reduced it.
Right.
Give me some proof of concept here. At what point is long enough? Has it been long enough? The last time I honestly believe that they balanced the budget was probably back when Clinton was in there. And last I checked, Clinton was not a Republican.
Have you checked with other colleagues in the real estate industry, and did they concur with what you're saying?
So, on some level, we really don't talk about it. Most realtors don't talk about this.
Right. They don't talk about the political influences in the real estate market.
And this isn't political. This is money. That's what I'm talking about. Is
well,
money.
it is political, but it's all tied in, right? Everything's tied into money.
Yeah.
Right?
So if you make the U.S. a worse investment, people are not going to be willing to invest. And if they're not willing to invest, then you can't buy the debt.
I think President Trump over the past few months has shown that there are countries that do believe that the United States is a good investment.
So they're investing in their companies. They're bringing and in exchange for, in many cases, weapons, right? So it's not always black. It's because the U.S. It's because they're getting something out of it. And so when you're buying U.S. debt, what are you getting out of it? What's the return on that investment? And right now, people are saying they're not interested in it. And I think the Fed is on the verge of losing control. And when the Fed loses control, that's when it really gets hard. So
President Trump was voted into office because of the economy. People vote with their wallets. They voted for him to have an impact and change inflation and have a positive impact on the economy. So is what you're saying, you don't trust the administration and how they're handling the economy then?
I don't think... So it's not, to me, it's not black or white. I'm just saying increasing the federal deficit by $5 trillion is not a good move. How is that sustainable? We're already talking about the sustainability various programs.
And a lot of people, I think a lot of Republicans, a lot of conservatives understand and appreciate that purist mindset. But is it practical? Is it possible to achieve what you want to achieve when you're working with other folks? It's like you made the statement, everyone has to be on the same page, and that's just impossible. You have to be able to compromise and make little steps. And I hear what you're saying. You're saying that those little steps aren't going to get us anywhere.
I'm just curious. Just show me evidence of the little steps.
Right. I hear you. That's a good point. Yeah.
Like okay, let's do little steps. What's a little step? I don't consider $5 trillion in the wrong direction a little step in the right direction. That just seems more of the same.
I think a lot of conservatives are looking at other achievements in the big beautiful bill, though, as far as immigration and
so just pass those. Just pass those. Why does it all have to be lumped together?
I know.
Maybe this is where
it wouldn't be big then anymore.
More my political naivety comes into play. But like, why does it have to be so big? Why can't you just pass a bill that says no tax on tips? Why can't you just pass a bill that says we'll help with IVF?
Well.
Like, why can't you just do little bills like that and then just push those little ones through, and then say, hey, in order for us to get everything done, we have to reconcile the budget.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. This is probably where I'm out. But.
Well, and I think this is why it's a good idea that when are you running for office? Wait.
Never.
I will be your campaign manager.
Yeah.
I will support you in any way I can. I will put a sign in my yard, not for EXP, not for Made for More, but for Johnny Jennings, President 2028.
Yeah, that'll be the
bringing
day.
down the deficit. Hey, promise voters, I guarantee we'll bring down the deficit in 4 years.
Well, here's the thing too, like all the money that's supposedly coming in from tariffs, how's that being allocated? Is that just going to more of these pet projects, more of the things that maybe I wouldn't vote for, that maybe, a person right, center, or left wouldn't vote for? Like if all this money's coming in, how's that going to be allocated?
I don't know if it's that much money, because obviously he's been negotiating and having conversations, and backing off to some degree on some of those.
But that's supposed to be a
billions
revenue.
of dollars, right? Yeah, absolutely.
I think that should 100% be earmarked to paying down the deficit, not going into another special project.
But how would you spin this into a positive perspective on the real estate market? I mean, yes, obviously.
Oh, I got one. I got a good one.
Okay.
We'll do it when we come back.
Nice. When times are uncertain, most people lose confidence. They feel anxious, worried, fearful, but not Johnny Jennings. In the current real estate climate, he is confident that he can sell your home faster and for more money than anyone else. And he's confident that he has all the tools and resources. They've got a great team at Made for More Realty. Maybe that's why they have over 1,000 five-star Google reviews. Yep, they're rated 5 stars on Google. Go check them out for yourself. Read some of the reviews and find out why so many people in our area trust Johnny Jennings and his team at Made for More Realty to sell their home. In fact, listen to this. Maybe you don't want to go through all the hassles of doing repairs on your home or getting it organized and staged and doing open houses. Johnny Jennings will give you at least 3 cash offers. Unlike the other guys who only give you 1, he'll give you at least 3 cash offers on your home in as-is condition. So if you're looking to get the most money for your home in the shortest amount of time, just Google Johnny Jennings with Made for More Realty and get more for your home.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings. Online at madeformorerealty.com.
So we were talking a little bit about,
politics. Because you're so passionate when it comes to politics.
and the
even though you say as a real estate industry leader, you like to be apolitical. You don't like to lean to the right or to the left. You like to stay middle of the road and just decide and do things that make sense.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about like cause and effect. Now, I'm not talking about.
Now we're talking about physics.
I'm not talking about policies. I'm not talking about programs. I'm not talking about rights. I'm just talking about if you dollars and cents. If you can't pay back your debt, that's going to have a cataclysmic event globally, and that's going to not impact my kids. And so now I'm looking at it now. What is it? How's it going to impact me? Not how's it going to impact me now, but how is it going to impact my kids in 20, 30, 50 years?
Got it. So you're president of the United States. You've got one side of the aisle is very passionate Democrats, some of them who think we should live in a socialistic society. And then you have Republicans who, many of them do want to make cuts, but they also want to make sure that they're pleasing their voters and providing those social programs that they want. So how do you negotiate that, Johnny? How do you figure out a bill that both parties will vote on?
I think you just cannot raise the debt.
You just shut down government?
I'm not shutting down the government. The House of Representatives is shutting down government. The state, the Senate is shutting down the government because you guys can't come to an agreement on how to balance the budget. I didn't shut it down.
But you're not going to get both parties to agree perfectly on what you're wanting. You know, there's no way you're going to get Democrats in the House and the Senate to, you know. So
if I was president of the United States, the one thing I would campaign on, and it would absolutely not get me elected, is we're gonna put an amendment in the Constitution that says you have to balance the budget.
So how would you eliminate $5 trillion from the budget?
How would I eliminate it?
You can't do it through fraud and waste. Elon tried that. He didn't get anywhere near that.
That's because that's where a lot of it is. You know, and people, that's how they call it the swamp for a reason. But we don't. So how would I do it? We don't have to necessarily get into it. But I think there's a way to do it slowly, but ultimately.
And that's what President Trump is saying. Slowly, there's a way to get to it.
But slowly is like measured improvement rather than regression.
No, I hear you. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, you've put it on record, and we'll see what happens. If our country collapses economically, then you heard it first on this July 5th, 2025 from Johnny Jennings.
That'll be your consolation. Yes, you heard it from Johnny.
I knew it. I told you guys.
Yeah. But hey, as far as real estate goes, I have been hearing people for years, probably a decade, say, hey, when prices come down, I will buy.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
They've been saying when prices come down, I will buy. Well, guess what? Your time has come. If you've been waiting, now is the time. It is a great time to be a buyer.
Don't they also want to wait till it's at the bottom? Like they say, I want to wait till prices come down, but all the way down till they're at the rock bottom.
So what do they say? Pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered. So what some people like to do, if they're really trying to time the market, is imagine like a V, like a little trough.
Yeah.
What some people don't want to do is they don't want to buy on the one side of the trough because they don't know how much lower it's going to go. But once it starts coming back up, okay, it looks like we're on the upswing, and then buy there. So it's very difficult to buy in the absolute lowest.
Sure.
But here's the thing is nobody knows how far that's going to go down.
Right, exactly.
And if right now the numbers are making sense, like recently we got somebody on our team got in contract for $250,000 less than the two houses that sold for across the street.
Wow.
So the two houses across the street sold for 1.2. They're in contract for like 950, right? And so that's a screaming deal. Recently, we just got somebody in a home that is only $3,000 out of pocket. This is a first-time home buyer. So they bought like a $550,000 home, and it only cost them $3,000 out of pocket.
And are sellers discouraged about that? And I'm not talking about those that are thinking about selling and looking at values of homes and what they're selling for. Once they sign that contract and they finally have cash in hand, are they extremely discouraged or disappointed that they had to lower the selling price?
Yeah, I would definitely say yes, because they were hoping to get more. But the market's worth what the market's worth.
Right.
Like our home, like we do so much marketing. We spend thousands of dollars, traditional, digital, social media, Bay Area. We have a team of people that call through communities looking for buyers. We have a database. We do so much. But at the end of the day, the house is only worth what the house is worth.
Right.
The good news is, though, if the market's going down, well, guess what? Most people who, own a home want to live in a home. And so that means they're selling this house and buying something else. And so their replacement property is also less expensive.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a wash for them. So the only thing that really hurts when somebody's selling a house is when they are moving into like a retirement facility, or maybe they're moving like across the country and they were hoping to buy in a more affordable part of the world.
Yeah.
And now they're getting less for their home in California than they were hoping for.
Right.
But generally speaking, especially if you're staying local, it's like so your home went down X, the home that you were looking at probably went down X.
Right.
And so my advice to home buyers is don't try to time the market. You've been waiting for the market to come down. It's come down. You can get in a house for $3,000. You can. We helped somebody not that long.
And so how were you able to accomplish that?
So it's a combination of the loan that they were able to qualify for and the seller paying for credits.
Oh, okay. There you go.
And so
because you have motivated sellers who want to make things happen, and so they're willing to do things like that.
Yeah, and sometimes, for example, we're trying to negotiate something right now where I don't quote me on the prices, but let's say the house is listed for $700,000. The person wants $20,000 in credits, right? They don't have the closing cost credit, or the closing cost funds, and so they're trying to get it from the seller. Well, the seller wants to still get top dollar, so how about we bump the price up a little bit?
Right.
Maybe bump the price from $700 to $710, $715, and still give them their credits. So the seller gets what they want, the buyer gets what they want, and the buyer is able to move in with a little money out of pocket.
Can you explain for people that are not familiar with what you just talked about how that would work if someone wants to purchase a home but they don't have? Are you saying they don't have the closing cost, and so the seller pays all of those? You're not talking about the down payment. You're talking about the closing costs.
Yeah. So how it works is when you're buying a house, think of 3 buckets. There's 3 main buckets of expenses. The first is what most people think about. That's the down payment.
Right.
The second is any repairs that may need to be made to the home, right? Or inspections.
Right.
Right. And then the third are your closing costs. So that's like title, escrow, notary fees, your lender fees, if you're getting a home loan, those types of things. And so depending on the loan you're getting, you're able to get so much in credits from the home owner.
Right. Okay.
And so that helps reduce the amount of money you need to bring to the table. I mean, a crazy example is we had somebody who bought a house with only $500 out of pocket.
That does not include the down payment then, correct?
No,
when you say out of pocket.
Because there's down payment assistance programs, right? So if you can help get the down payment covered and you can get some help with closing costs.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, Valerie and I used to do it all the time in Kalinga, right? Almost $500 all day long could get you a house.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I mean, up here it might be $3,000, but still, we're not talking about a house worth $250,000.
Because I think there's a lot of people, especially young people, and we could talk about that new study, but they're concerned about that big chunk of down payment because they maybe have not saved up for that, and they just got a new job or they've gotten married and they haven't had time to save up, but they want to get a home, and so that's their biggest concern. Oh, how much am I going to have to put down? I'm really concerned about. But what do you think about that new study that says 1 in 4, I think, homes that are purchased now are from Gen Zers? I think it was 18 to 28 or somewhere around there.
Okay.
Gen Zers now are not discouraged by what the market looks like right now. They are interested in purchasing a home. How would you interpret that? What's the mindset there?
I think that's really encouraging because you hear a lot of people complaining, right? And to have an entire demographic of people making up 25% of the buyer pool, that just says that, hey, there are options out there if you're going to explore them.
Yeah.
And so there's just so many down payment assistance programs. The Gen Zs, they're different. Like they don't, from my understanding, they're not really into alcohol. They're more into weed. What
does that have to do with anything?
Well, they're just bucking cultural norms. And
gotcha.
And so for people being nervous about, jumping into home ownership and being committed to that, if they
want something, they want those traditional things.
If they want that, then more power to them. I would say if I was a Gen Zer, and this isn't me just blindly saying this. This is actually what Valerie and I did. Is the first house you should buy, it should be an investment property. So whether it has an ADU, a mother-in-law unit, whether it's a duplex, triplex.
Why?
Because then you can take advantage of those first-time homeowner programs and buy an investment property. It's really hard to then use those programs to buy your first home and then turn around and try to buy an investment property.
So you're saying buy an investment property and live in an apartment?
No, buy an investment property and live there. So let's say the property has a mother-in-law unit. You're a single dude. You live in the mother-in-law unit.
Oh,
and
so
you
buy
rent
a
out the
specific
house.
property that provides that opportunity, that has that extra living space that you can rent out.
Yeah, or like a
Gotcha.
triplex, right? There's 3 separate units.
Are there a lot of those available?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's so many, and you can also buy one, and you can use buy a regular home, but there's room for an ADU, and there's special loans out there where you can actually build the ADU and then start renting it out.
There you go. That's smart.
So if it doesn't even exist, maybe the numbers work for you to just create the equity, create that investment opportunity.
Because I know in the past few months we've talked about how you thought maybe this culture is kind of shifting to where we're going to turn into, and maybe it's not the culture, maybe it's just the way the economics are working, is that we're turning into a society where we just become renters, like Europe. But, we're hearing that maybe that's not necessarily the case. At least Gen Zers are interested in actually owning a home instead of just renting for the rest of their lives.
We'll see how it plays out. I still stand by what I said earlier.
You do?
Oh, absolutely.
And because it's regardless of what the Gen Zers want, it's just the matter of economics that you have all these large corporations that are buying up homes and just turning them into rentals.
Yeah, I mean they're building homes to rent.
Yeah,
they're not even hitting the market. There's no option for Gen Z to go in there with their first time home buyer loan and pick up the property. And so I think that the economics is such that
wow,
Gen Z, we're gonna.
That is so.
How many
crazy to
people
think
own their
about.
phone? How many people own their phone outright?
Well, I do.
Well, your phone's from 1995.
No, it's an iPhone 12, and I buy my phones used.
But-
I don't. So you say most people lease their phones?
Most people have payments on their phones.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have payment on a phone, how are you gonna all of a sudden decide? You know what? I want to own my house.
I know. I think that's bad though for our society.
I agree.
I'm
I'm not pro it,
Right.
but that's the way it's leaning. That's the way it's going.
Well, it goes back to our conversation about the big beautiful bill. I think people just realize or just come to the conclusion we're always going to be in debt. We're always going to have debt. We're always going to have a car payment. We're always going to be in debt to somebody. We're always going to be making payments.
Yep.
And owning nothing. Right?
Yep.
Paying someone always and owning nothing.
Control everything, own nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, isn't there a spiritual perspective to that? Isn't the Bible talk about don't store up your treasures here on earth?
There you go.
Don't store up your treasures here on earth. Store them in someone else's bank account.
There you go. Hey, I'm just doing what the good Lord suggested. But no, in all seriousness, if you're looking to buy a house, now's a great time. If you're looking to sell a house, you know what? Now might be the best time that you're going to see in 12 months. So just keep that in mind. Otherwise, just be willing to sit on that home a little bit longer than you were hoping for. If you'd like more information or you want to just have a conversation with me, I do this all the time. It doesn't cost anything. I'm happy to just go over options. Just reach out to us. Just go to madeformorerealty.com. You can Google us, madeformorerealty.com, and we're happy to sit down and go over, put a game plan together for you.
Talk politics and the big beautiful bill.
I will absolutely not do that. All right. Thanks, Matt.